So, at this time, allow me to introduce our special guest for the evening. You know her and love her from the Talking Trek podcast with Ultimate DJs and crew. The one and only Trader is now joining us live on our Twitch stream this evening.
Hey
Good.
guys, how are you?
Woohoo! If you're not watching
Oh
Twitch.
yes, that's me.
Well, I mean, I could have given you the She-Hulk avatar, but then I was like, wait a minute, we know what she looks like. We have her live on camera from Los Angeles. I can just.
Well, Tiberius asked me if I wanted to be on video tonight, and I'm like, no, just a graphic because then I can lay on my sofa.
Also, thank you for the resubscribing.
You're welcome.
So, okay. Well, first off, thank you for being here. We love having you on the show, and
Very welcome.
you get to be my first guest.
Oh, exciting.
I know, right? If you look at the Guinness Book of World Records in like 9 years, it's gonna be who was the first guest on his show, and it's like, well, that was Trader.
Perfect. Perfect.
So,
So how are you today, Tiberius?
well, I'm doing good. It's been kind of a weird day
Good.
work-wise. How was your work day?
It started really, really obscenely early, and so it started at 7 a.m., which is really early for me,
Yes.
and went way too late. But I get to hang out with you, and then I get to hang out with DJ, and you're both of your communities. So it's a perfect way to end the day.
That's very true, Barkman. Yes, the star of the Talking Trek show goes Trader, then Bubba Joe, then DJ. Yeah.
No, no.
Now, two things. Now, well, we're going to cover a bunch of topics tonight. I tried to keep this a little more scripted than, say, your show was last week, which I don't know if you know was recorded.
Oh, yeah. I found out yesterday at the end of DJ's podcast.
Yes, he
I
tried.
did not know at the time it was recorded.
Now, as a lawyer, how do you feel about that?
um, well, I suppose it's always buyer beware. Somebody could have just recorded it from, the audience, but let's just say it this way. I was not expecting it to be recorded, so
No, it definitely
there
sounded
we have it.
several times during the thing. You guys were saying, "Well, at least nobody's recording this, so it's fine." And it was like, yeah, well, we clearly know that's not true now.
Exactly. Exactly. I told DJ when he decided he's going to put it up. I'm like, I don't remember exactly what we said, but I remember being glad it wasn't being recorded. So take that as you will.
There were certainly some moments where, yeah, I'm sure there were some things, mostly by Irian, so
Yeah.
that I'm sure you were, not expecting to be out there for public consumption for very long, but again, it is the internet, right? So people can't always clip stuff, I guess.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Buyer beware.
Mm-hmm.
Streamer beware.
I'll be honest. As soon as DJ was like, "Oh yeah, it's over on the podcast," and people were like, "Mate, it got a little, risque. Maybe I should take it down." I was like, "Download, download, download." I'm like, I have to have a copy of this. I have to listen to this before you come on the show today. And I'm glad I did because the whole part about koalas having gonorrhea did not disappoint.
You're welcome. It'll change the whole way you look at those little furball marsupials.
It really was something I never even considered as a possibility. And then it was like, wow, talk about learning a new
Yep,
fact today.
exactly. You never know what you're gonna get when Arian and I stream together.
Now, that was obviously an unscripted stream.
Yes.
When you
Yeah.
guys normally try and do your streams, is there more prep work that goes into it behind the scenes first?
Yes, absolutely. So I would say DJs and Bubba Joe. are generally the ones that come up with the topics. The rest of us sometimes weigh in, but the two of them generally have the main topics, and then we go through together as a group the main points that DJs wants to talk about during the podcast. And so we have a general idea of what he wants to talk about, what's coming next, so it's not complete scattershot.
Okay.
Now, anybody that's ever listened to DJs knows that sometimes the road is winding, but we always get there in the end.
Yeah, sometimes there's a sharp detour there for sure. I think Bill
Yeah,
Engvall explained it in one of his comedy bits that they'll be talking to his wife about biscuits, and then suddenly they'll just veer off into bad wiener day, but they know they're going to work their way back around to biscuits by the end of the conversation.
yeah, yes. Uh,
Yeah, definitely
like the
squirrel. Yes,
shiny thing.
yes.
Yes.
Now, do you come up with any of the stupid news, or is that entirely the other two?
Oh, that is 100% DJ's fault.
Okay.
100%. He will, sometimes assign them out. Like, he'll like, Bubba, do you want to do a news clip today? Or, ask me if I would like to do one. And then you never know what he's going to send over to you.
Okay. So,
But he is 100% in charge of writing that.
okay. All right. Now, for those people out there who don't know much about you, you have a day job.
I do.
You are an
I
attorney.
do. I am.
What type of law do you practice?
So I practice a combination of civil and criminal law. Specifically, I do labor and employment law and some general business law. And then I also do work for municipalities in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul area in Minnesota. So
Okay.
it's interesting. It keeps me busy.
Okay. So a nice little combination of things where you're not just, sitting behind a desk just writing briefs and stuff all day. You actually, get to talk to some clients, maybe get into the courtroom once in a while.
Actually, I would say that probably 80% of my practice is in a courtroom.
Excellent.
I have very little of a desk work and I don't like it. So do it.
I
Delegate. Delegate.
That's what you have assistants and paralegals and stuff for, right?
Precisely. Precisely. It's not quite as interesting as LA law, but
Now you also mentioned Minneapolis. Definitely
yes.
get. I mean, definitely the Midwest accent comes through,
Oh, thank you.
but it's not as bad as say like Michigan or something.
Well,
I'm
I
just
can
starting
make
trouble.
it worse.
I'm just starting
I
trouble.
try not to make it worse. You bet. Yeah, you betcha.
There you go.
Or, uh huh.
Being from Minneapolis, or at least living in that area, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on the Mall of America?
Oh, okay. So I admit that my perspective is jaded because when I was in law school, I actually worked there part time.
Okay.
I worked at a now defunct women's clothing store. So I got an employee discount so I could buy the suits I needed for court.
Okay.
Um, but I will tell you, as an employee who had to work there, absolutely horrible, absolutely terrible. People were rude.
Mm-hmm.
They There was lots of organized theft rings going around. Like I could tell you stories about things that happen at the Mall of America. If you're just a tourist, it's kind of interesting to go in and your kids can ride the amusement rides when you pay too much for food in there, and but
Mm-hmm.
everything else, it is what it is. It's not a place I choose to go.
There you go. That's kind of the thought that because I have some friends who live in that area as well, and to some of the surrounding towns out there, and they're always like, "Oh God, don't make me go to that place." And I'm just like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I can understand why." I mean, we actually in New Jersey, which is where I'm from, we just built our own super mega mall, which apparently is now bigger than the Mall of America. And it's like, great,
Oh,
someplace else
really?
I will never go. Awesome.
So, so the Mall of America, I don't know if your friends told you, but the Mall of America probably, I would say 15 years ago, implemented a policy that, kids under the age of 18 have to be accompanied by an adult because kids were just, coming in and, running around and,
Hmm.
teenagers being teenagers. So they put a stop to that,
Right.
sort of,
Yeah. I mean, you can't have
sort of.
you can't have those mall rats just hanging out there all day, or we actually had some laws, the malls around here where because of course they always ban the skateboarding or the rollerblading, that none of them were allowed inside the mall
Oh, yeah.
because that's always a thing.
Yep.
Even the mall that
I,
had
re-
its own indoor skate park inside the mall, you had to like you couldn't like rollerblade or skateboard through the mall to get to that park. You basically had to like carry your skates or whatever
wow.
to get there because yeah, they didn't want any of that going on.
Interesting. So I don't know if it's a regional thing. I mean, obviously, so living in Minnesota, you know, 4 months of the year, you're dealing at least 4 months, sometimes closer to six. You're dealing with snow on the ground and cold temperatures,
Oh sure.
and so the malls here like will open at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and so like older people will go in and like do their speed walking, and I've actually seen like some older people on roller skates doing that. So I
Okay.
mean, to each their own.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Ohe Nicole. Oh, hey Nicole.
There you go.
Understand it. Yeah. Oh, people who are not from the Midwest do not get that reference. I get that reference. Say it all the time. Oh, excuse me, can squeeze right past you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I believe she said earlier. Well, we're gonna assume it's a she by Nicole, but that person said earlier that they were from Michigan, I think. So
Oh, okay. See, there we go.
I know,
There we go.
I know. I told you I was causing trouble when I just picked one area to call out, but
uh, kind of sounds Canadian, apologizing that much. It kind of is. I mean, Canada is only about 3 hours from where I live. So, it's basically northern Minnesota.
hmm
Um, so, they've picked up our bad habits.
they, well, yeah, probably. I will say I was also very impressed. Just recently, we opened at Tim Hortons in New Jersey. I was like, oh my god!
Really? Oh,
Not
I'm
that,
not a huge fan. I don't think they're very good.
not that it's like super great. I mean, we have like you can throw a rock and hit a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts here, but the fact that like Tim Hortons made it all the way here was just sort of like, oh wow.
See, I love Dunkin' Donuts.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the glazed donut holes they have,
Mm-hmm.
but I always thought Tim Hortons, like they've had a couple in the Twin Cities that never lasted very long.
Oh hi Stewie.
They ruined Jersey when they made a new one.
Yes.
Nice, do we do? Nice.
All right. Now, do you want to
So,
ask?
what are my feelings about the last few months in game?
Yeah,
Is she exited for G6? Oh, okay.
yeah. You have kind of taken some time off the last couple months, which was certainly something I wanted to get to. So thank you, TC, for just moving things along for us.
Yeah, so I haven't played the game since January.
Oh wow.
And yeah, I've logged in to put up a new 30-day shield. I made sure I was where I needed to be when incursions rolled out. And then I played a little bit when DJ's server was paired with ours for the test incursion.
Well, sure.
But
I mean, that's just
that's
too good to pass up, right?
exactly, exactly. I so saying this as not quite a day one player, but pretty close. I mean, my server 20 is one of the older servers left in the game.
Sure.
I started playing the day that our server rolled out in November of God, oh my God, 20.
18,
19,
2019.
18. There we go. God, something like that. Very long time ago.
I think November of
I just
18
got to the
was,
point.
yeah, November of 18, I think was when the game
Was that when
launched.
the okay? And so I played for a really long time, and I just got to the point where it wasn't really interesting to me anymore. It The new mechanics that were coming out weren't relevant,
Hmm.
and repeatedly, like over the span of about a year, hadn't really been relevant.
Right.
Um, and being in the position that I'm in, I'm really fortunate. With working with DJs, there's conversations that you can have with people in leadership positions in the company, but just understanding, where they want this game to go versus where I want my gameplay to go. The,
Right.
the two of them just didn't match up well. And I don't think G6 is going to fix that. I don't think it's going to fix anything in the game. And I do think it is coming soon, coming soon to a game near you.
Coming soon
Uh,
on September 8th when it's Star Trek Day, the launching the new monthly arc in G6. What? No.
if I had to, if so, I remember when G4 was rolled out and G5 were rolled out. I had to make an educated guess. I would say probably the October arc is when it's going to come. That's just a supposition based on when they've rolled out previous
Sh-
expansions.
sure.
Um, take that take that speculation for what it's worth. I don't know anything about it,
Right.
but that's my guess.
And even if you did, you couldn't say so.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I so I just see the issues, and my server is a really good example of some of the problems in the game because we have probably when I stopped really engaging with the game, there were 5 op 60 players on my server, which is a pretty big number,
yeah.
and we had a fair amount of players that were in G5, and then there was this gap, and then you had G3 players, low G4 players, and it really exposed the problem with having that wide of a power differential,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
with the the PvP bracketing in the game.
Well, yeah, when
And
60 can hit down to I think 39.
39.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's kind of gross
And
when you're getting hit with a billion strength for a Tauren.
exactly. Exactly. There to me there is their strategy was removed from the game. It just became brute force.
Hmm.
I am very interested in the other games I play. What really engages me is the mechanics of around strategy. So things like Marvel Snap, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is one that I play, and what how do you put modifications on the cards that you're using, and to beat an opposing team and their loadout. So it's like those dynamics of playing around with things, and it's interesting to me, and it's what keeps me engaged.
Sure.
What kept me mostly engaged in this game was my alliance.
Okay.
Um, people that I played the game with for many years, and they were a lot of fun, and I still talk to some of them. I miss all of them. But yeah,
And, you know, as you pointed out, the strategy aspect of the game is something that was very relevant in this game 2 years ago.
yes,
And then it kind of,
very much so.
G5 power creep kind of, forced that out. And then, strike teams kind of forced out the other strategy aspect, which was PvP crewing.
Yes, yeah.
And then it
I
definitely
mean
became a
now,
dollars thing. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and to me, that dynamic just doesn't interest me. Spending money for the sake of spending money, and I say that as a whale. I spent a lot of money on this game.
Right.
Uh, Sometimes I cry a little inside at how much I spent on it, but I had fun doing it. But at the end of the day, if you're going to spend money on something, you want to be able to enjoy it, and you want to feel like
Hmm.
you're getting something out of it in exchange for that monetary investment. And frankly, with this game, the investment of your time,
Right.
because this game takes as much time as you're willing to give it. You could
Yes.
play it 24/7,
And some
and
people do.
it would let you do it. Yeah, and So it was, I just realized that I didn't have that enjoyment in it anymore, and it was taking up a lot of my time. Like, no offense, in my job, I know time is money. I
Yes.
know exactly how much an hour of my time is worth. And when I realized like how I was setting, timers for, territory captures
Hmm.
and I'm like, why am I doing this? I want to go out to dinner with my friends. I want to go see a movie. I want to, just
Right.
do whatever I want to do, sit outside and read a book and not have to worry about, oh, my alliance needs me because I'm the biggest player, so I have to be there to help.
Right.
It just became a dynamic that
It
I
becomes its
wasn't
own job.
interested in engaging in.
Right. It
Yes.
becomes a job that you're
Yeah.
paying to have. It's
Yes.
worse than an internship.
Precisely.
It's worse than an
Precisely.
internship. Yeah.
Yes. It's a paid internship of a completely different kind.
Barkman
So
wants
yeah, I mean,
Barkman wants to know if you're
obviously,
cheating on Scopely with Scopely by playing Marvel Snap.
is Scopely a Marvel Snap game? I don't think it is.
No, that's Marvel. They have another Marvel Strike Force is the game they have, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And that
No, I don't play that.
and that one's I think is even worse in terms of paying to progress than this one is.
Yeah, and the other one that I see advertisements for it, and I just refuse to look any further in it. Is sometimes I get like pop-up advertisements in other games for Monopoly Go, something like that, which is another Scopely game. I'm like, no, thank you very
Oh,
much.
yeah. You fooled me once. I'm not falling for this one again.
Well, I noticed in one of the advertisements that you have the ability to like challenge another player and then steal some of their resources. And I'm like, that I am gonna have trauma in a Monopoly game with that.
Oh no, you stole the house off of my boardwalk. What?
Exactly.
How do you steal my electric company? Like what? Yeah,
Yes.
I don't understand, but I'm sure they found a way to do it.
Yep. Exactly. Uh,
Yeah, the
you
Q.
know,
Oh, go
the
ahead.
one thing I've been considering is, whether the game might be more interesting as a new player.
Hmm.
Obviously I've been playing for a long time, and with all the progression and the downsides that that brings, right, is because you're very isolated at the top of a power bracket.
Right.
Just coming in without any expectations and not spending any money. Sometimes I wonder if that is the better way to play this game in terms of like mental health and well-being.
There are days I enjoy playing on my free to play account more than I enjoy playing on my main account.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can see that.
Hmm. I mean, there's a little bit less to do. There's definitely lower expectations from the rest of my alliance. They're not expecting me to carry the armadas or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
now they're
You're like,
constantly
oh,
at
such
war,
something
but yeah.
needs to be. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was another issue on my server is we just have some, players that I just they have to have conflict for the game to be fun for them,
Yes.
and so they just make conflict wherever they go, and
Yes.
that's fun for a little while, but like everything else, that gets boring too,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
So it's interesting that you talk about Q's trials because did Bob and Joe talk about this yesterday on the show? I don't know. I joined late because of work, but he's found a bug with that
Oh.
with Q's trials and the files that they spawn. So basically, I'm not going to explain this correctly, but I'm going to try to. So the hostiles get progressively stronger each time you go through that loop,
Yes.
no matter if you kill them or not.
Right.
So I think he said the number was like the first time he hit it was 8 billion. The second time he hit it, it was 20 billion. And then like it was over 100 billion, and that's when he's like, "Yeah, I can't even touch it now."
Oh.
So,
Oh wow.
yep, good times in the neighborhood.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I was listening to the beginning of the show yesterday, and then they started talking about the Strange New World episode, and I was like, I haven't watched it yet, so I had to stop I didn't want any spoilers,
Yeah.
so I had to a
Oh,
bit.
that was a great episode.
Yeah, it was a
Perfect
fantastic
episode.
episode. I watched it last night, and you know, I was trying to watch it earlier, and Paramount, of course, kept giving me an error message saying try again later. And I was like, well, I
Ugh.
guess everybody must be trying to watch this episode.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic episode, and I like how they merged both and gave you a little taste of both series
Yes.
in that, which I thought was very good.
Exactly.
So I don't want to give anything away to people who haven't watched this episode yet. No spoilers. Go watch it. It's awesome. You get a little lower decks. You get a little strange new worlds. Fantastic.
And if anybody's on DJ's Discord, Dr. Iron Chef and I were talking about something really interesting related to that episode,
Ooh.
which, if I talk about it, would be some significant spoilers. So if you're interested in that, which I found fascinating, you can go to the TV spoilers channel on DJ's Discord and read the discussion we had about that episode, because it was, I didn't know that, and I was it's pretty cool that they did things the way they did things.
Interesting. I will definitely have to check that out. Yeah, even watching the Ready Room with Will interviewing the cast afterwards, there was some very cool stuff that they, mentioned in there, and one or two little Easter eggs
Yeah,
that they dropped into the episode too. So,
it was just a great episode, and
hmm
I'm excited. I'm excited to see where they go with this in the future.
well, we got a musical episode coming up later this season. How do you feel about that? That good, huh?
I so I was talking to Mama Joe about this. I so I the my most hated mechanic in science fiction, bar none, is time travel.
Okay.
I hate time travel.
hmm
I think it's overused. I think it's universally bad. But just below that on the list of things I hate is pointless singing and dancing in a show that's not about singing and dancing.
Sure. It's not Glee or something, right? Where they're supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't Dancing with the Stars. I don't care about your jazz hands. I don't need everybody to burst into song as you walk down a hallway.
Right.
Not my jam.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Right. Robotsky's asking about. I think it was last season, the end of season one, where they did the fairy tale Fantasyland
Oh,
episode.
I I fast forwarded through that. Like, I was jumping, and I got the gist of it. I have no desire to watch it, but I
hmm
fast forwarded through it, like, to what I thought were relevant parts. I could barely tolerate it.
Yeah, those to me, those episodes have always been, it's definitely a filler episode, and I'm sure it's very fun for the actors and the cast because they get to do things they don't normally get to do with these characters. But uh,
Yeah.
for the
Yep.
whole, they do nothing to advance the storyline at all of where the series is going. It's nothing but a fun
Yes.
filler episode. And when you have 26 episodes in a season of TNG, having them dress up like merry men and run around Sherwood Forest, sure, that's fun. When you have
Yeah.
10 episodes, because you're on this very limited season and we're going to wait 18 months maybe to get the next season,
Yeah.
it feels like a
Yep.
throwaway, and it kind of, feels like the audience is getting cheated a little bit.
And Robotsky is right on. It's like he says that episode gave a lot of backstory from Mbanga,
hmm
which is absolutely true. And it was good backstory. I mean, understanding like some of the like his dynamics in his history with his daughter, like great backstory.
hmm
But I wish they would have done it a little differently.
Sure.
Um, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, the musical might be the first episode my wife will watch. That's great.
Maybe that's the episode that gets her hooked, and then when episode two rolls around and it's not the same thing, she's like, oh, they're not singing this week. Like, oh no, maybe next week they'll do some singing. Just keep watching next week.
Yep. Yeah, so I actually really am really enjoying Strange New Worlds. I think it is really well done. The casting is really spot on. I like some of, you know, I I think I'm safe saying this because the season has progressed like far enough along
Hmm.
that if it's a spoiler, it just means you're like 3 months behind on watching. But seeing, you know, Uhura and Kirk and Spock kind of circulating around each other, knowing what's come, like
Hmm.
knowing the future past, so to speak.
Right.
I think that's just really interesting watching those relationships unfold.
Definitely. And they teased us with Scotty at the end of season one. We haven't seen him yet in season two,
Hmm.
but again, they we know the end of the story. Like it's like Titanic. We know the boat is gonna sink.
Yes, yes,
It's how interesting can you make the story up until the point at which it happens.
yeah. And they've been doing a really good job of making it interesting.
Hmm.
Obviously we're not at the end of the season, so the one episode I didn't really enjoy so far this season was the episode where Spock like lost his Vulcan DNA or something, and I'm like, not not really my jam. But everything else, in terms of like time travel, hating time travel, I have not hated what they've done
Right.
this season.
Right.
I hated what they did in Picard. That annoyed the crap out of me,
Yes.
and it took me forever to make it past that. But this isn't, they're not doing it the same way,
Hmm.
and I think they're doing it well and making it meaningful in how they're doing it. Like with
Right.
La'an, I thought that was just amazingly well done.
Yeah, that was a great episode that gave you a whole. I mean, this whole season has been pick a character that's going to be, this is their episode. And it's all
Yeah,
character. Everybody gets their own character development episode for season two. And again, this because they shot them back to back. They didn't know what the reception was going to be for season one. They didn't really know where they were going to go or what was going to inspire the fans or things like that. So they didn't get quite the run up that they might have, like with another show that might be like, okay, this worked really well. Let's take the story in this direction. They didn't know that when they were already filming season two.
yes, correct.
So,
And that does make it, with that in mind, it does make what we're watching interesting.
hmm,
It really does.
yep, definitely. Let's see, we got any. Well, thank you, Kalima, for saying that. Obviously, content creators like Trader and myself are making the game more interesting. Appreciate that. Definitely a lot of Mbenga
Well, for what
backstory. Yeah,
it's worth, I don't consider myself a content creator. I'm more content creator adjacent.
you're a
I just I enjoy interacting with the community. Um, you know, people like you, Tiberius, DJs, Rev, Rev's on my server, so I've gotten to see the game through a different perspective
hmm.
through working with you guys. So it's interesting and appreciated from my perspective. Content critiquer, yes.
There you go. I was gonna say more like community advisor, but that might people might think
Yeah.
that you're too related to Scopely then.
No, I'm sure I've said some things along the way that they really would rather just shut my mouth and kept quiet about.
I do it all the time, but that's if you're not going to give an honest opinion, people aren't going to respect you for it. So
That's true.
then you'll have a community of
Very true.
zero watching you real quick. I mean, how many times do we hear about other content creators getting referred to as Scopely shills?
Oh my God.
So,
That is like really annoying to me. Like so annoying to me. And it's usually, the worst part is it's usually said when, it's usually said when there is absolutely nothing going on that could even remotely be considered shield like.
right.
It's like you don't like, as a player, you don't like what's happening. So anybody that says anything that is not exactly your words and your thoughts is a shill. Well, okay.
GP, to answer your question, you have to complete the Origin Superhighways, which you do through research at Ops 53 and
Mm,
54, I think, is the other one.
yep. You got to make sure you're doing those dailies for your raw intelligence because you're going to need a lot of it.
Yeah, it takes about
A lot
7
of
or
it.
8 weeks per faction, and you have to do all 3 factions before then you can do the other ones.
Barkman, nice.
That, well, you can't fault his logic there.
That's
He kind of has a point, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
But as long as we're talking about content creation, now you have the privilege of being part of a very large show. There are usually
Yes.
4 to 7 people in the chat at any given time. And there
Yep.
are there are times where we don't hear a word from you for hours. Is it just hard to get a word in, or are you just like, they're having fun. I'm just going to let them.
So sometimes it can be a combination of both. I will say this. I personally do not have a problem butting my way into a conversation when I want to say something. Uh, call it a hazard of my job,
Hmm.
but I'm fully capable of it. I try not to be just rude and butt in. But a lot of times I know what my strengths and weaknesses are. And a lot of times when DJs and Bubba are talking about, some of the real like
Math.
nitty gritty, the math
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, that is not my thing.
Hmm.
I understand how A plus B equals C. So I understand the broad, strokes of what they're talking about, but the actual minutia, when God bless him, when Blue starts talking, Stu Du,
Oh yeah.
those Jules Verne, like those guys, when they get going, I'm like, whoa, I don't, I, I have no, yeah, like there's nothing I feel I can say to add to that
Right.
conversation.
You guys lost me a couple
Um,
of decimal points ago.
Yes. Just tell me, like for me, I'm one of those people with those types of conversations that's like, tell me the bottom line. So is everything you're saying, does that mean that this doesn't work or that I should use this mechanic in this other way? That's what I need to know. That's what I want to know. The way to get to that point does not always, you know, engage me. Let's put it that way. And I want to be really clear because don't take that the wrong way. Like, do the math and gathering the data and
Right.
crunching that data is so invaluable because there's so few tools
Hmm.
that come with this game. And I
There's
can't imagine like without the spreadsheets and all of the things that
right.
that this community does, like how much more difficult this game would be to navigate. How it would be almost impossible, I think.
If you
So it's critical, but not my jam.
absolutely, Shady Pines, thank you for the follow. Bear Butt, thank you for the subscription earlier. Um, yeah, I mean, and now thanks to Stewie and Lube hosting all of those charts from Jules and Blue all in one place over on their Discord server. Uh,
Yep.
I feel like that's another you know in, necessary resource because Scopely doesn't give us this information. Even it's not even on stfc.space. Now that they have the website that they spent a lot of money buying from Ripper,
Oh God. Yeah.
they don't even you know give us the same content
Yeah.
that we're creating ourselves.
Yeah. And I go back and forth like on reasoning. I mean, some of it I think is from a business perspective, it's better for them sometimes that players don't understand exactly how things work because then you don't spend things in the right way and
Uh
then
huh.
it incentivizes
You make
more of a
mistakes.
buy.
Yeah, you make mistakes. You
Yes.
run out of
And
resources, and yep.
you get frustrated, you buy a pack. So
Hmm.
that dynamic is real. And they're not the only company out there. They're not the only gaming company out there that does that. I mean, spend is based on frustration. You gate something,
Hmm.
you time gate it, and you buy. I mean, that's right, wrong, or indifferent. That is a function of all gaming,
Hmm.
whether you're playing on an Xbox or whether you're playing on your iPhone. Um, but I personally find that to be like as a player,
Right.
that makes me want to flip a table and be like, screw you.
Right.
Um,
You're not getting any
and
of my money
so
now. Yeah.
exactly, and as a player, you don't want to be frustrated with a game. You don't want to feel like everything is a spend mechanic.
Hmm.
And even as a whale in this game, I understand that feeling. And there were, as I was playing, over the years, there were things I just wouldn't spend on. Like, no, I don't care how much time it cuts off. I'm just not buying that because that's rewarding what, in my opinion, was, just a mechanic designed to fail. So I would spend, and I
Hmm.
just wouldn't engage with that.
Right. Don't reward their
Um,
bad behavior.
yeah, and so again, I see both sides of it. I personally think every every game, every other game that I play, we'll take Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. They have a forum, they have a Discord where players talk about all sorts of strategies. When new mechanics come out, there's explanations
Hmm.
that are posted, there's videos of engaging with that content. And then the players do the deep dive into, okay, so we know how this works,
Right.
but let's go into this nitty gritty. Like, what's the best? Like, for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you have, cards, tunes that you put together in a squad, and then you have to engage with those. What are the best other tunes to play with this new card that we're getting?
Hmm.
And so that is really interesting to me, and testing it out and seeing how that works. But when you start talking about the numbers, and God bless the spreadsheets,
Right.
I'm just like, hard pass.
Right.
Tell me the bottom line, I'm good with the rest, I don't need to know.
Hmm. And
So
I've definitely agree. I mean, other games do it a lot better. Other games do videos pre-releasing what their upcoming expansions and stuff are. Hey, next month we're going to have this, and here's a little teaser of what some of that stuff is going to look like. And
yeah,
we've talked about
yes,
that, getting that for Scopely and things like that. And the answer we usually get is, well, they're still tweaking stuff right up until like hours before release, which I can't imagine is really accurate. But then again, with how some of this stuff
yeah.
rolls out, it just might be.
And so I have a hard time with that too,
Hmm.
because right now, like, just any gaming company, Scopely, and any other gaming company out there,
Hmm.
right now they have that roadmap. They know what's coming over the next, let's call it, 3 months. They know what's come. They want to roll out over the next 6 months. They
Right.
know what they want to roll out over the next year. And I personally don't understand the secrecy surrounding that.
Hmm.
Again, every other game is really transparent about, here's what we're working on, and
Hmm.
here's when. They don't necessarily promise it's going to come in 3 months.
Right.
They may just say, here's what's on our punch list for this next year, and we're really excited about this. And it gets the community talking about it and engaging about it,
Right.
talking about it, so that one of the things that happens, which I think is really missing in this game, is player involvement, like the people who actually know how this content works in practice, not on a test server,
Right.
in practice. They don't get to engage with that until it's actually rolled out. They don't get to talk about the pros and cons of it until they actually see it in the game. And then at that point, you know,
Hmm.
developers, game design, it's the mechanic is what it is. Like, take assaults. Take assaults. If we knew what that was going to be
Right.
before it was rolled out,
Right.
I mean, and maybe these things are supposed to be really awesome and they're getting nerfed at the last minute. I mean, I suppose that's possible, but I kind of don't think that's the case
No.
myself. I,
And
I just,
yeah, assault is a textbook example of things that if they had told anybody this is exactly what this is going to do, we would have been like, don't make it. Don't waste your time. Stop
yeah,
right now. Whatever you had planned for next month, move that up and
yeah,
work on
exactly.
something new for next month because this is just going to be more filler content that's just going to take up server space and make the game even more laggy.
Yeah. And then you see players, who know a lot about this game and who are invested in this game,
Hmm.
take incursions. And incursions is something that
Mm.
when it was rolled out, you were either, I love this or I hate this.
Yep.
I was in the camp of, I don't know that this is going to be good, but it's different. It's something new,
Sure.
and I wanted it to be awesome, and I wanted it to work well and be fun. And then over whatever. And so when I was listening back the other day to some stuff for DJs, and people were actually talking about how there's going to be this there's going to be a point in time where people are just going to be bored with this mechanic,
Hmm.
and they're just not going to engage in it anymore because there's a built-in shelf life for this.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself when I was listening to it, I'm like, yeah, that's actually kind of true.
Yeah, a lot of their content
So
seems like it's got a very finite window to it. It's okay, and that's, a lot of times we see that. They roll out a new content, we get events for it that month. Maybe there's like
yeah,
one event the following month to be like, "Hey, we didn't forget about this." And then by month 3, it's just another thing that's just sitting there. It's another building to upgrade, or it's another loop to do that, maybe you still
yes,
participate in, maybe you've already given up on, and it's right there next to like data mining, and you're like, yeah, I'm never doing this crap again.
exactly. I mean, one of the big sources of frustration that I have is they don't I don't know you can attribute this problem to, but this is what I see. So they rolled out G5, and all of the mechanics with PvE.
Hmm.
So hostile grinding, like the crews that you could use for G3 and G4 just weren't going to work anymore. Chen and Falan
Right.
are not effective in the G5 hostels. And so they wait and they wait and they wait. And I remember being able to kill exactly one hostile that I needed to with my Sanctus.
Hmm.
And then you're talking about, a 20, 30 billion titanium repair
Yeah.
for one hostile that you need to do for your dailies. And then I see, a year and a half later, they're rolling out mechanics that are helping with that.
Hmm.
In my opinion, and if I were the one that was, lining this stuff up, I'm not saying that you have to roll these things out on day one, but you also shouldn't be waiting, 18 months after
Right.
G5 comes out to be adding these, into the game. Those should, in my opinion, those should have come out within the first 6 months.
Hmm.
And I would have been very, very interested. And DJ and I had this conversation. I would have been very, 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 very interested in, in the Borg crew that came out in January and February because of its the hue,
Right.
because of how much that would have helped my hostile grind. But as an Op 60 player, having progressed through research, having stronger ships, having, upgraded other crew like Strange New Worlds,
Hmm.
he's not relevant to me at my level anymore
No.
it, because with all of the Op 60 research and the Op 60 ships, he doesn't move the needle anymore. Like it's the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest little percentage of good that he does. It would have made such a huge difference to me and to other G5 players a year earlier, and
Hmm.
when it should have come, my opinion.
Right. Going from 50
So
to
I hope that
59,
there is,
a lot better with Hugh. 60 at
yeah,
that point in time, the power creep has gotten so far out of balance that it doesn't matter anymore.
exactly. And that's why I think about G6 as not fixing anything and making everything worse, because we have the PvP brackets now,
Hmm.
all the way up to I think Ops 99. So we know what an Ops 70 player is going to be able to hit. And if we look at the power creep between G3 to G4
Hmm.
and then G4 to G5, we can make some logical deductions about what G5 to G6 is going to look like. And think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we get 1 billion power ships now. What are they going to end up being?
Right.
5 billion? 10 billion?
And that's where they have to start, right? Because your
Yeah,
G6 uncommon has to be better than or at least comparable to your G5 epic.
Yeah.
and then you still have to do a
And
rare and an epic after that. So unless they're going to do some type of
yep.
power, scaling reduction and go back and scale down G4 and G5 ships in terms of their power level, so there isn't as big
Yeah.
of a gap. But again, that's going to piss off a lot of people too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Right.
I'm just going to call it the way it is. This is my personal opinion that I'm saying. These are my words about anybody else's. The absolute bullshit whining. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. The
Go for it.
whining, the whining coming from the whales, the G5 players
Mm-hmm.
about the primes that came out a couple months ago
Mm,
was just ridiculous. It's like, suck it up.
right.
Suck it up. We know that this is going to happen in any game. Things are going to get cheaper. It's going to get easier for people to progress. They're not going to have to pay the same amount of money
Mm-hmm.
to get to the spot that you're at because they've waited time.
Right.
It's like, but what the other point to make about that is those primes signal to me that they are not about to make anything about G5 cheaper. They're not about to do anything with G5 to make to fix the power creep. And I just I feel very much like G6 when that rolls out. I'm going to be sitting there with popcorn watching the world burn because I have I just it is not a that when that comes, that is not a game that I have any interest in playing at that point. I mean, I know what's going to happen. I understand the numbers
Mm-hmm.
and I understand what that's going to look like in the game, and it's going to be for a the segment. It's going to be bad. It's just going to be bad.
Right. Because there's nowhere else for it to go except right into even more power creep levels, which is going to, in their minds, they're going to expect people to continue to spend more to keep up, and some of them will.
Yeah,
Some of the people who have
yeah,
already spent six figures on this game to get to 60 and to have these, billion
yeah,
strength ships are
oh,
now going to continue to spend to
yeah,
be the top of their server.
yeah. I mean, and I think six figures is low for some players.
Mm-hmm.
The players that got there, like within a matter of months, I think they were spending seven figures. Frankly, I mean, I I know how much it costs to get. So I when I started playing, I snowplayed. Did not. I got to 39. It took me about a year and a half, and then I was going through the G4 grind, and then the pandemic happened, and I had, like
Right.
everybody else, I was lucky enough to have a job where I was still working and I still had income coming in because the courts didn't close down.
Right.
They just went virtual.
Everything went to
So I
Zoom or
was
whatever.
still
Yeah.
able to work. Yeah. And I just had nothing to spend my time or money on besides this game. And so it went from like, in my just gonna say what it was. It went from being like a well-contained escape from reality to like 90% of the time that I was spending that wasn't work related.
It was the only thing that there was
And
available to do, right? I mean, you couldn't go to a movie, you couldn't go to a
exactly,
concert, you couldn't go to, a sporting event. It was sit at home and watch the same stuff on
exactly.
the same streaming services, which also aren't making anything new because
Yep.
nobody can go film anything.
Exactly right. And now I'm like, oh, there's so much I can do. There's so much things I
Hmm.
can other things I'd rather spend my time and money on.
Right.
I'd rather be, traveling. I'd rather be, doing just about anything. And so when the pandemic happened is when I just like really like hammered into the game and, became what I would call a whale. I would say I was probably a dolphin up to that point.
Right.
I wasn't spending a lot. And then I spent a lot of money to get to 60. A lot of money to get to 60.
Well,
And
yeah.
knowing how much money it cost to get to 60 when I got to 60, I have no flipping idea how much money it's going to cost to get to 70. And I am willing to put a dollar figure of probably $250,000 on it.
You're probably not too far off too, unless there's some magical new primes that reduce it even further, or and at least some of the
Yeah, but
research that we've seen does say like G4 plus or G5 plus on it. So it will at least apply to some of these newer tiers as they continue to release them. but even still,
Yeah.
it's not going to make enough of a difference. It's a drop in the ocean at this point.
No, and I am afraid that they may have learned something from G5 because there was a contingent of players that had sat at Fox 50
Hmm.
for a long time. And when you sit at an ops level like that, you have nothing to spend on
Right.
and you just accumulate your resources and materials. And again, this is me with having zero information. I know nothing about what they're planning or what's coming.
Right.
But I'm kind of sitting here with like this evil thought in my mind about how they're going to try and monetize G6 by changing the way things currently exist in the game for resources.
As in new resources, or as in just like ridiculous
I,
quantities of resources?
well, so they did ridiculous quantities, frankly, of both the materials and resources for G5. I'm really thinking I'm kind like again, this is like my
Yeah.
I don't play the game, so I don't stress about this,
Hmm.
but like this little evil voice in the back of my head is like, are they going to try to go a different direction than, the normal crystal ore gas or par steel dilithium titanium? Is there something else that they're gonna roll out? I
That's
mean, because they have the same problem. They have the players that now have been sitting at 60.
right.
Do they want them to have that stockpile
Right.
that they could just burn without spending money? And if I were, an evil business person wanting to milk my whales, I would. If I were wanting to ride some whale tail and make numbers, I would do that. I would make their current accumulation of wealth irrelevant.
Right. You either add a fourth new resource, which Olympus says there is a fourth resource. It's called U.S. dollars, um, which is funny, but also accurate.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you could, they could add a new resource or something like that. Or, you know, the people who are sitting at 60, yes, they've accumulated a lot. The people at 58 or 59, are they now more willing to spend because now that they know that there's a, if they're just trying to get to 60, they're probably not as incentivized to spend to get that last, quarter mile that they need to. But if now it's
Yeah.
opened up even further and now it's, well, now I can move right through 60 and get to 62, 63, wherever the new, G6 uncommon ships are going to be, the same way you blew through from 49 right to 52 or
Hmm.
53, maybe
And
they
I,
spend enough.
I with and then again, this is just based on what I've seen historically from playing the game.
Hmm.
I would expect that there's going to be further research that rolls out to make, you know, G5 quote unquote cheaper. So you can move through it quickly.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what they did for G4 when G5 rolled out, and then for G3 when G4 rolled out. And so I mean, I think that that's what you're going to see when we saw. I mean, so one of the things they did with G4 is add the rare and the rare ship parts, then
Right.
epic ship parts, depending on how deep you get into upgrading your ship.
Hmm.
And so I can see them doing something like that for the ships. It was Nicole, I think, is joking when she says, or he says, concentrated par steel, concentrated titanium. Yeah, I can see them doing that too.
Sure.
When concentrated latinum, why not?
They could definitely make
So
something else that really consolidates things down for sure.
yeah,
So,
I don't know. I just the bottom line is that knowing what G5 was like and being told that there wasn't an economy problem with G5,
right.
that they were happy with how G5 looked when it rolled out,
Hmm.
and they thought they fixed the problems that they saw with G4. Okay.
Right.
Understanding that that's where their head was, and for all I know, continues to be at.
Hmm.
I am absolutely terrified for the community about what G6 is going to look like.
Yeah, it's And again, we know that this is, right just over the horizon here, coming any week now.
Yeah,
It's either going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, or you know, the
yeah,
foolishly optimistic part of me is like maybe they learned something from how things have gone the last few months and what their numbers look like, and they're retooling some of this stuff to make it a little more palatable to keep the existing players around, so players like yourself don't also just be like, all right, enough's enough. I already spent how much money on this stupid game? You want me to spend another, six figures on it? It ain't
yeah,
happening. I'm done.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I hope so.
Hmm.
I hope you're right. I hope it's awesome. I mean, if it is awesome, I am not ruling out coming back.
Right.
So far, the things I've seen in this game are not awesome and make me want to come back. So, you know, that's all I have to say about that. But I hope spring's eternal.
Absolutely. I know you're gonna have to get running in a little bit. Not hopefully not just yet.
Let me double check. I haven't seen a ping from him.
Yeah, usually
Uh,
usually he's on in about 30 minutes from now is when he attempts to start beginning getting ready to start.
yeah, he hasn't pinged me yet because usually he gives me like a 20-minute heads up.
Okay,
So I don't have anything yet.
good. Because
We're
one of
talking about DJs, by the way.
yes, yes. Because one of my favorite talk shows ever was Inside the Actor Studio. And God bless James Lipton and all the episodes he did with that. But I loved the questionnaire part at the end. And so I kind of
Okay,
wrote up my own that I would like to just throw at you.
sure.
Okay. So let's begin. Do you remember your
I'm
introduction
so
to the
scared.
Star Trek franchise and when that happened?
Oh, yes. So I started with Next Generation, and oh, I was in middle school
Hmm.
when it came out, and I remember I'd get home from school and would go upstairs and watch it on TV. It was on at like 4 o'clock or something in the afternoon. So that was my introduction to Star Trek.
So you hadn't seen any of the films at that point, or the TOS. It's just picking up with season one, season two, and next gen. And okay,
Yes. Yep. Yep.
do you have a particular
I
favorite
I didn't
episode?
watch too. Um, you know, I don't. I have to think. Not none that popped to mind. I mean, I will admit I'm a huge fan of Riker.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, obviously, so Next Generation was, not as it wasn't as campy as TOS was, but it's nothing like what we currently have
Right.
available in terms of how it's run. But I just remember um, the one I liked the most was with Moriarty. That I don't want to say it's one episode because it was kind of an arc for him, but I enjoyed the Moriarty aspect of TNG and kind of outthinking
Hmm.
a computer, and that I would say that was one of my favorites with that.
That is a great episode where they're doing the Sherlock Holmes thing, and then Moriarty does come back a couple seasons
Yeah.
later.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
okay. Now you mentioned, obviously you played this game, or you had played this game. You're taking a break. You're playing other games now instead. Do you have a favorite video game of all time?
Uh. Yes. Yes. But I feel like this is going to date me. My favorite video game that I still play on my Xbox is Injustice.
Okay.
So I love the storyline. I love everything about Injustice. I am not phenomenal at playing it, but I love the game. I love the
Okay, that's not dating you too much. If you were like, "Oh yeah, I remember when Duck Hunt came out, and that was so much fun," like that game was going to date you.
game. Well, that was the first video game I played was Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers. We had the
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo NES. Okay, this is gonna date me. So the first computer that we got in the 80s was an IBM, like the little tiny blue screen.
Okay.
It had the giant floppy disks. I've never been able to find this game again, but there was a game on there, the only game called Digger, Digger,
Mm-hmm.
and you would like mine gold, and it was kind of like a Pac-Man style game where there would be these little gremlins or something that would chase you around trying to catch you.
Okay.
I would play that with my brother for hours. Oh my god, hours and hours.
Okay.
So there we go, flash to 1986, 87,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
I mean, we're in the same age bracket, so it's no big issues there. So.
Pong is good too. Yes, Stewie.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next up, is there a particular arc or mechanic from Star Trek Fleet Command that you really enjoyed?
Huh. Yes, loved and continue to love Lower Decks. I loved everything about that arc.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the officers. I loved it was at the time and remains to this day the only mission dialogue that I've ever read. And I loved it. And I still love it.
And it
And I'm
was,
really excited that
yeah, it was incredibly well written too, because you could hear very few
yes,
of the dialogues. Can you actually hear the characters' voices in your head as you're reading along?
yeah.
That
And
that
it
arc you
just
could, yeah.
great, just great.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really interested to see because this is not a spoiler because Beck said it in public that Lord X is going to come back,
Yes.
and I'm really interested to see
Yeah.
how they implement that.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
excited about it.
I mean, are we
That
getting
might actually get me to come back and poke around in the game
at
just
least
for that.
play around with the arc? Are we going to get the other officers that we haven't seen yet, like the bridge crew, who we haven't seen yet? Are we going to get something new? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what would you say has been your least favorite arc or mechanic?
Uh, Assault, least favorite ever.
Yeah, I kind of knew that when you mentioned it earlier,
Least favorite ever.
and I was just like, well, I mean, assault is kind of on everybody's list of why did we do this, but I wasn't sure if there's something else where you were just like, oh God, I hated the whole Ferengi, you know,
Uh, I
Dabo
did.
thing, or
I
yeah,
did hate I hated the Ferengi arc, but I hated it because I hate mining, and that stupid arc made me mine like nobody's business.
right.
And God, so bad. That was just so bad. Like as a mechanic, Assault has to be the worst ever. I'd say the arc that was the worst in terms of every part about it that I hated would actually be the Ferengi arc, um, with the where they rolled out concentrated latinum.
Mm-hmm.
Blech,
Oh, Doomsday Worms is
just
another one.
blech.
Yeah,
I didn't. I don't hate that with the same level of passion that I hate mining. Just gonna say, I think they're pointless, but I don't hate them.
all right.
Is it really Carissa? Because I, I, I maybe it's just like everything. Some people like it, some people hate it. I obviously don't know anything about forbidden tech, so
It's the this is what DJ and I were discovering with Brandon when we were streaming together that night. It's the upgrade cost and the fact that you can fail and lose
oh
weeks worth of materials. Like it takes weeks to accumulate these materials, and then you fail and you're like, and then they're just gone, and now you have to wait 3 weeks,
yeah,
4 weeks, 5 weeks doing dailies to accumulate enough to try again. And
yep.
then it's only like a 75% success rate. Well, now you failed once, so now it's 75.5%. Yeah, that is definitely when you talked about
That
earlier about mechanics designed to frustrate players into spending.
yep.
Because if you look in the store
Woof.
right now, there's about 7 different options for things you can
Oh
buy
God.
related to different packs and different combinations of stuff. that you can buy related to
But
upgrading forbidden technology in the court of Q building and things like that?
so I'm going to expose my ignorance and ask a question.
Absolutely.
Do the packs allow you to bypass the percentage chance mechanic,
No.
or do you buy them to engage in that?
Yeah, you buy them so you have the materials so you can roll the dice and try, and then you
Oh my
fail,
god.
and then you're like, well, crap, I failed. I guess I'll have to buy another pack so I can try again because I don't feel like waiting, you know, 38 days or whatever it worked out to be.
No offense. If I'm going to gamble, I'm going to go to Vegas where the odds are better.
There's actually something you can return, right? Yeah, I'll go
Yeah,
put $100 in a slot machine and see what I come out with. At least I get to look at the blinking lights for 5 minutes.
yeah, yep. Oh Lord, I didn't realize. I assumed that you could spend to bypass it, not
No,
to engage in the. Jesus,
no,
my God.
at least not yet. There is no like token you get that you can click on that automatically makes it go from like 75% to 100% success rate. They haven't released that yet, but let's not give them any
Oh
ideas.
Lord, no kidding. Ugh. Sorry, people. Just had like a visceral shudder
Yeah,
right there.
I don't blame you for that one. I mean, we were talking about it with Brandon. About doing like even can we implement like a rebate process where if you fail, you get like half your stuff back. And they were like, that's a good idea. We'll have to think about that. And then their solution was they tweaked the building to make one
Oh,
of the three materials you need a little easier to get.
oh, nice.
So yeah, so instead of being like a 40-day, like if you're trying to upgrade an Epic and you fail, it takes you about 42
Yeah.
days to get the materials back to try again. Now, because of how they tweaked the building, it might only take you like 30 or 25 days depending how high you've upgraded your building before.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so and it
I don't feel like I'm missing much with that part of the game.
and you're probably not because again it is just another level of power creep that as a level 60 you don't need because what's adding 200% to your damage in an armada going to do for you that your billion strength ship wasn't already doing.
Not much is what.
Yeah. So, all right, let's ask some funner questions. It, what profession other than you own would you like to attempt?
Okay, when I was a kid, so as you can see from my picture there, I have glasses.
Yes.
I lived with the fantasy of being a Air Force fighter pilot and an astronaut.
Was this before or after
And
you saw
then,
Top Gun?
well before.
Okay.
So, in full disclosure, my uncle was in the Navy
Okay.
and he was stationed on aircraft carriers when I was a kid. Send me all sorts of inappropriate gifts, like I have from. He would send me. So it's just a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's sending me ashtrays with the name and the ship number, the ship ID number,
Right.
like on the ashtray as a gift. Anyway, uh, but it was because of that that I really wanted to be a fighter pilot. But I wanted to be in the Air Force because in a child's mind, that's all they did was fly. They didn't have to sail on a boat. We just flew. No hate from the gallery if there's somebody from the Navy in here. I'm sorry. I was a child.
Yeah. That
Um,
makes perfect
pointed
sense.
out
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
It was pointed out to me when I got glasses
Mm,
uh, that I had to have 20/20 vision
yeah.
to be a pilot and to be an astronaut. And so, at the tender age of 9 years old, my lifelong dream was crushed.
But you could have that dream back, though. I mean, SpaceX, right, is a thing. You could be an astronaut for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if I so it's a my best friend and I have a running joke about winning stupid money in the lottery. So like stupid money is like hitting that $1 billion Powerball jackpot,
sure.
and which I won $4 on, unfortunately. So I still have to keep working. Um, And but if we win like stupid money, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do something really like really risky and potentially deadly, and like blow ourselves into outer space on some rich guy's rocket ship.
Sure. I mean, for the amount of money you spent on Star Trek Fleet Command, maybe that'll get you. I don't know what Elon's charging over there, but
uh,
anybody want to?
I'm just gonna keep buying $20 of Powerball tickets and see how that works out for me.
Anybody want to buy an Ops 60 account so Trader can go to space?
Yeah, right.
Yes, definitely not going down to the Titanic. Well, that whole thing is yeah,
Oh, Lord.
another disaster right
I'm
there.
just gonna point out that when somebody complains about how they they ignore safety regulations because they're too onerous, that
Mm,
is ought to be a person's first clue that don't want to do something really dangerous with them.
no.
Is a vehicle they created.
Yeah.
Common sense, not so common.
All right. So
But anyway,
fighter pilot or astronaut, both noble professions. I myself wanted to be a fighter pilot after watching Top Gun.
nice,
Then I found out you have to be,
nice.
on the ship and in the Navy and stuff like that, and they don't get to just fly all the time and do stuff. Most of the time, they're just sitting on the boat waiting for, oh, now we need to go somewhere. Oh, okay, great. Let me go fly the plane now. But you go through
Yeah,
years of training to get to that point, and maybe you get to do some cool
yep,
stuff once in a while, but for the most part, it's not all like that. So I was like, never mind.
yeah, yep.
What
I
profession would
understand.
you not, under any circumstances, ever like to attempt?
Hmm. Um, Undertaker.
Oh, that's a good one. Not like the wrestler, the
I don't want to
Undertaker,
deal with.
like dead bodies, Undertaker.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to be dealing with dead bodies. It's not my jam.
Hmm.
Now, I would. I'm not gonna lie. That might actually be fun. Maybe I should revise my answer. It might be fun to be a professional wrestler. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's so totally random. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. See what we did here right now? We just gave you a complete 180 and just completely changed things. Yeah, Undertaker,
Nuts.
Mortician, those are, you got to have a very special personality for those types of jobs. And
That's right.
yeah.
That is absolutely right.
Hmm.
And nuts. God bless you. Living in a state that has forest fires. Thank you. We need people like you.
Oh, and there you go.
A
Nuts is,
professional wrestler and a mortician. There we go.
I mean, it was a very popular gimmick, right? I mean, one of the best gimmicks of all time in professional wrestling. So
That's right. My God, I love you guys. You're amazing.
there you go.
Oh, you guys are amazing.
All right. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, I love music. I am almost constantly listening to music. I will listen to just about everything. When I write a brief, I have, again, I'm a nerd. I accept that fact. When I write a brief, I turn on the Star Wars soundtracks. So I have all of those on CD.
Hmm.
And I obviously, transferred them to my laptop. And so I'll just listen to that as I write, and it helps me focus. But yeah, so I love music. 13 years of piano lessons.
Okay. And you're not, I mean, we're all nerds here. That's why we're all here doing this stuff together. I mean, the song my wife and I, after we got married, walked up the aisle to is that celebration song they play at the end of Phantom Menace.
Oh, that's very cool.
Hmm.
That's very cool.
So,
I like that. That's a great idea. So, like in Attack of the Clones, they have what is it called? Like Love Amongst the Stars. It's the love song from
hmm.
Attack of the Clones that one of my friends used that in their wedding. So
Yeah, there's all kind. I mean, people always talk about like, oh, you're having a Star Wars wedding or something like that. What are you dressing up as like Princess Leia and Han Solo? It's like no, but there's subtle little things you can still do to express your
yeah,
your fandom of it. Obviously, we had that song in it. My wife's bouquet, the handle of it was a lightsaber.
nice. That is
I
awesome.
didn't know about that. She coordinated that and surprised me with it, and I was just like, okay, wow.
That is really, really cool.
hmm
Nerds unite. That's all I
Absolutely,
gotta say.
absolutely. So there's always ways that you can, you know, find it and incorporate it, and nerds are cool, right? We learned that from The Big Bang Theory. Everybody wants to be a nerd.
I just got my 20-minute warning,
Oh, there
which
you
is
go.
probably going to be more like 30 minutes.
Well, it's DJ, so you never know. I mean, it's 9:20
That's
here,
right,
so
DJ time.
right. DJ time means I send you the 20-minute warning. Then he's got to put the kids to bed. Well, Oliver to bed. Yeah. Uh, Sound or noise do you hate?
So I do not like repetitive clicking.
Oh.
It makes me want to claw someone's eyes out. Like, people that do the click, 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 click,
Uh,
click, click, click on their pen.
yep.
Yeah, I'm going to take your pen away and stab you in the eyeball with it.
Okay. It's it's an honest answer, and I've certainly seen that look on people's faces. And I don't normally do that, but if I'm sitting at my desk or something like that, or I'm sitting here and I don't have anything else to do with my hand, like I have a pen and I will start picking up, and then I realize, wait a minute, they can hear that, and I just like throw the pen across the room.
So I'm going to horrify your entire audience tonight
Oh,
and tell you something that so only a handful of people in real life know about this, and it horrifies them all when I've told them. So prepare yourselves. So I have this recurring daydream when I am extremely aggravated or annoyed by opposing counsel or some crazy person that I have to deal with. And I take a broadsword from behind my back, swing it over my head, double handed, and cut the person in half from shoulder to opposite hip, like just right through the torso. And then I ever so slowly imagine the two pieces sliding apart and blood spraying everywhere. And it never ceases to put a little creepy smile on my face. So if you're ever pissing me off and I smile at you, that's what I'm thinking about.
ouch. Okay.
Sorry. Now
No,
you all have that in your heads too.
that's like straight out of Conan or something right there, but yeah,
Inspiration for Dexter by night. Nice, Nevin. Thank you.
there you go. That's definitely a good one. Thank you for sharing that one.
Hope I'm sleeping tonight.
Yeah. Note to self: next time I'm in Minneapolis, don't piss off Trader.
Oh, you guys are great.
All right. Last question of the questionnaire. What's your favorite curse word? And you can say it.
Motherfucker.
There you go.
And I usually say it with that sort of emphasis
Hmm?
or motherfucker.
Yeah, we don't you don't put that into like the middle of a sentence, like, oh, that MFR over there said blah 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 blah. It's always just like it's by itself. You're just like pissed off about
Yes.
something, and you just, I can't believe that just happened, mother, and there it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like that, like the word fuck, just like I do intersperse that. It's just
Right,
like when I get really, really mad at somebody, it's like, what the fuck?
right. That one you can use the middle of.
Put it
That
in
one's a
there, but
bridge. That one's a bridge between two thoughts. What the f is going on? Over,
yeah,
like that's the middle of a sentence somewhere. You use it all the time. The other one,
yes.
no, you don't. We don't ever that one
but
that's a standalone one.
to me, to me, when you like that word is like perfection because it perfectly combines, you know, like simmering rage, frustration, and like all of that like is expressed. Like when somebody says that, like viscerally, you know, you get it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that's definitely it's a standalone one by itself, and it's kind of a showstopper. It doesn't really need anything else to go with it. Yeah.
yep, exactly, exactly. What a note to end on.
I know. This is a. I mean, I've enjoyed this. This has been a blast for the last hour and a half now.
Oh wow, has it really been that long?
I know. It just feels like we were just sitting here having a conversation, and here we are 90 minutes later, and we've learned so much more about you.
Yeah, like I'm a little homicidal.
Yeah. And now, when people hear you in the background talking to DJ, trying to get a word in, they're imagining you, decapitating the cat or whatever the case may be.
Oh, the only time I've ever gotten that mad was when he was screwing around with the prize spreadsheet that I organized for him. Oh my god. Like if he would have been in front of me, there would have been bloodshed at that point. I had it all nice and then he's like color coding things wrong. I'm like,
Oh, no.
oh, God bless him.
He means
Oh,
well.
gotta love it.
He's just a big old teddy bear, and he means well.
Mhm. Sure. With that, I'm pretty sure that he knew exactly what he was doing. Stewie Doo, it's an amazing picture, isn't it?
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yep. Yep.
As we wrap things up, last question I have for you. Who would you like to see in the hot seat next?
Ooh.
And you guys in the audience can
Do
obviously
I
type
like
in.
can I do is there am I like limited to somebody or can I just pick whoever I think would be really good?
You can pick whoever you want. I don't know if I can get them on the show,
Um
but I'll certainly try.
well, I'll pick somebody that I think you can get on the show. That I
I'm
won't be mean.
I'm still working on Will Wheaton. Don't I haven't given that one up yet.
Okay, make sure you tell me because that would be awesome if you could get them on. That would be amazing.
I'm pretty sure I'll tell
Uh,
everybody like weeks in advance of that one. I mean, I might break the internet that night.
oh yeah, that would be amazing though. It would be amazing.
Hmm.
I so I would say I think you should get I think you should get Bubba.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell him I suggested him. So if you Parkin, you'd spend the whole time smoking. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Bubba is not always right.
I
I've proved
mean,
that
what's the
to him
worst he
many
can tell me to
times.
do? Just sit down and shut up and be wrong? I mean,
That's right.
I already told DJ to shut up once, so I mean, it's not like, I feel like I've got one coming back to me.
It's okay. I've told him more than once. DJ, stop talking.
Yeah. I didn't mean to say shut up. I meant to say shush for a second, but damn it if shut up didn't come out. Which
Yeah,
I am sorry about. I am sorry about that, DJ, if you ever watch this. I didn't mean to say that. I'm sure.
I he doesn't hold a grudge.
No.
He doesn't hold a grudge at all. I once used my like how I talk to my dog. I once used the DJ. Stop it. He did stop. He did stop.
He's probably just more stunned, where like, oh damn, she raised her voice. She doesn't usually do that. What's going on here?
No, I don't. like I said, I'm not a shrinking violet. If I want to say something, I'm gonna, budge my way right in and say it.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes, sometimes. Oh, the tone, Retro Hunter, the tone I have used more than once, but the actual words I've used exactly once. So, well, thank you. Thank you for letting me come hang out with you guys. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you asking, Tiberius.
You are incredibly welcome. It was a pleasure having you on the show. I'll let you go take a quick break and grab a fresh beverage before your show
Sounds
starts up
good.
in a few minutes, and we'll probably raid out into you guys if DJ starts at a reasonable time.
Yep.
But
Oh, well, you guys have a fantastic night. And again, it was great talking to everybody.
thank you very much for being on the show, and yeah, we'll see you again soon.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye.